think we're good.
Okay. We're going to get started here now. I want to thank each and every one of you. We've got so many regions across this country represented on this call. In order to eliminate anyone from being a little shy and maintaining people's anonymity, just being respectful of that, we won't shout names, but we will shout regions. We got Brooklyn in the house. We got DC in the house. We got Atlanta in the house. Los Angeles, Chicago. Wow, we got St. Louis in the house. What else you see, Hassani?
We have Minnesota in the house. We have Chicago on the line. We have Grand Prairie, Texas. We have Ontario, Canada on the line. We have Compton, Washington, D.C., North Carolina, Ashford, Maryland, Cleveland, Ohio. The list is just growing and growing, and we appreciate all of you for being on the line.
Love it. So I wanted to address the why we got this call assembled in the first place. It got put on our hearts, the collective Manhood Tour, to put this call together because, and for those of you who don't know, my name is Dondre Whitfield. I am a third of this Manhood Tour and founding member. And the three of us got together last week, and it just really was put on our hearts to have this call be assembled because we recognize the great need in the space that we're in right now. There are a lot of things that we feel like are not being addressed with so many different issues, and not the least of which is the recent transition of power. I will say one of the things that we have to do in terms of living out manhood and living it out in the highest degree is we have to learn how to respectfully disagree with one of our brothers without being disparaging or being diminishing. We really do have to be in a space of empathy for our brother who may have made a choice that he feels like will best suit his needs and his family's needs. You know, when you are in a space where you feel like your voice hasn't been heard, or you feel like you haven't been making the kind of money that would speak to the pathology of your family, and you feel like a specific administration might speak to that, that may cause you to make a choice that you wouldn't have otherwise made in years previous. And so whatever the reason is, we just want to make sure that we stay mindful of the fact that there is a brother on the other end of our perspective that we don't want to diminish in the process of letting our own voices be heard. With that said, that's one of the main reasons why we put this call together. We also wanted this call to be a tight 30-minute call because we recognize that all of us are being called to be so many different things. We're called to be husbands and fathers. We have, some of us may be at work or about to take the journey to work. So all of those things in mind, we wanted to make sure that we kept this call a tight 30-minute call. Lastly, in our housekeeping, if you will, in these first couple of minutes was we're going to have a Q&A session at the end of this call for about 10 minutes. And rather than have people just sort of chime in and have the call get away from us, we wanted to allow everyone to be able to text in a call, and we will sort through those and actually read the question and address it efficiently. So I want you to get your paper out or put it into your phone right now. This number, 678 200 8996. Again, that number is 678 200 8996. So you can text your question to that number. We will get to as many as we possibly can, also being mindful of the ones that we think are going to speak to a larger segment of the brothers that are on this call, and get to it succinctly. With all of that being said, I want to lead us into our first space, which is how to be a leader when you feel like the country lacks leadership. And I wanted to hand that over to my brother Hassani Pettiford, who is our infidelity recovery specialist and marriage counselor. He is the other third of our Manhood tour, and I want him to take the first leg of this.
Thank you, Dr. I appreciate that. And listen, for all those that do not know who I am, once again, my name is Hassani Pettiford, co-founder of the Manhood Tour. And even though I operate in the space of marriage and family, there's something about what's taking place in this country that activates us all in a particular way. And many of us are finding ourselves to be more political than ever before, more legal in our mindset than ever before, more economic, more just conscious about what is taking place. And in terms of what to do when you feel like there's no leadership in the country, you have to realize that as a man, you have been born, you have been created to be a leader. In essence, you are a natural born leader. And I think that we are so limited in our perspective to think that if you don't hold a title, if you don't have a position, if you're not leading an organization, that you don't have the right to lead in whatever area of expertise or influence that God has created you for. And we're living in a day and age where we can no longer wait for a messianic leader to fall out of the sky to represent our interests. We can no longer sit around and wait for a community activist or someone in a particular field to speak our voice or to speak our message to the world. But each and every one of you has a seed of destiny that has been imparted and implanted deep within your loins. And as that seed manifests, it will allow you to grow into your level of leadership. So I'm calling on each and every one of you to lead however best you feel that you can lead, because right now we are in a very divided nation. Not to say that this is anything new, but we're experiencing nuances, if you will, in this society like we never have before. If any of you are watching television, if any of you are listening to the radio, following social media, you know right now, at this very moment, that there are women marching, that there are Muslims marching, that there are African Americans marching, that there are whites and Europeans all over the world marching. And interestingly enough, as divisive as the climate is, we're seeing that so many people are coming together and crossing racial, ethnic, religious, all types of lines in unison because we're in a different state of being in this particular country. And I want to let you know, and I'm speaking particularly to those who are in the faith community. As we're seeing all of these changes, many of us are struck in fear. Many of us don't know what to do. We don't know how to react. And what we have traditionally done is we've relied on a vote, or we've relied on God to solve all of our problems. And we've used the vote and we've used God as an excuse to do nothing. But I want to let you know that God is within each and every one of us and is waiting for us to get in the game and to fight the good fight so that we can begin to do in society what needs to be done in order to have the lifestyle and the environment that we want. So my question to you is, if you voted, or if you believe in voting, what are you doing in addition to voting? That somehow we believe if we just cast our ballot, we can sit back and depend and rely upon those who are in position to do for us what needs to be done. And I'm here to let you know that you can't do that you have to be just as active, just as involved, just as participatory, if you will, in the process so that all the things that we're standing for and believing for come into fruition. There are many of us that simply just want to pray and leave it all up to God. So when things don't happen, we either blame God or we blame the devil. And we've robbed ourselves of our own responsibility of standing up as leaders and doing what needs to be done. But all of these are nothing more than excuses. And if you know anything about an excuse is a well-trained lie that we've convinced ourselves to believe. And I'm sure you've heard the quote before, that excuses are the tools of the weak and incompetent, and those who use them are seldom capable of anything else. And so we're in a time right now where there are no excuses. We're in a time right now where we've got to step up and step forward and do whatever is possible to create the society that we stand for here in this country. Listen, don't focus on positional leadership, because guess what? A real leader doesn't need a position. A real leader can function and operate when there is no position to be fulfilled. As we see people marching all over the country, I was reminded by a powerful, powerful quote that someone said. That said that the power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. I'm going to say that one more time. The power of the people is more powerful than the people in power. And so that is to let you know that when we all come together and unite as one, powerful, powerful things happen. I'm going to just speak to one more thing, and then I'm going to pass it off. Right now, a travel ban, has been put on 135 million people all over the world, particularly those from Muslim nations. So the question is, if an executive order is passed, what hope do we have? What can we do? What rights do we have? How can we simply overturn things? Well, we know because so many people came together protesting in airports and protesting on Capitol buildings all across the country, it forced a federal judge to override that particular executive order, and as a result, people are now able to come into the country. So let me just say this. In 1935, the Supreme Court overturned 5 times President Franklin Roosevelt's executive orders. It's been done before. And so whenever a president vetoes the overturn of an executive order, the Congress can then come back and veto the veto. So as long as we continue to put our pressure on our administration, on our elected officials, our voice will be heard. So we need each and every one of you to rise up to do what's necessary for our children and for our children's children so that we have the nation that we've always believed was possible for us. Brian.
Love it. I'm going to introduce now, that was Hassani Pettiford. I'm going to introduce our third member, not our last member. His name is Brian. He is an educator and powerful speaking teacher, and he's going to take our second leg on this how to be a leader when you feel like the country lacks leadership. Brian.
Thank you so much. I'm excited about tonight's call. First of all, I want to give a special shout out to my brothers on the call, Dondra and Asani, my brothers. One of the key development tools of manhood is surrounding yourself with men that can make you stronger. And throughout this whole journey of the Manhood Tour, I have become stronger just walking the journey with them. And to be on the call tonight is amazing. So shout out to my kings on the call. I'm excited. We're talking about really developing your manhood and developing your leadership when you feel like the government or you feel like leadership is lacking in the world. Again, my background, motivational speaker, rock star educator. I do a lot. I transform lives. But I always boil down to one thing, is that we were born to serve. One of the key elements of manhood development, really just any development, is developing your act of service. Now, sometimes the connotation of service may go into something maybe related to a religious practice. And I'm not talking about that, just that capacity. When I say service, how do you give of yourself? We were born to give of ourselves, and we lead through that giving. That's the power of who we are. So giving means your time, your talent, your perspective, your convictions, sometimes I tell people the best place to serve may not be where you get most excited and happy. It may be what angers you the most. Look at a Dr. King or a Malcolm X or these certain people who are revolutionaries. They didn't get warm, giddy feelings about oppression and civil rights. They were angry. So understand the gamut of how you serve. What boils your blood? What excites you? That is service. To give of who you are, to give of your essence. And then you're ending up and you're leading through that capacity. You're leading to that capacity. So let's break this down very quickly. Again, we talked about, number one, what it means to serve, giving of yourself. giving of your time, giving of your talent, whatever it is you do. And Asani spoke to it. I know Dondre always speaks to this all the time. You as a man, you want to come into a space and you want to add value to that space. You know, I talk about it that, you know, as a child in a home, a young man, you have a choice. You either want to be a liability or you want to be an asset to that home. As a man, we want to walk in and be an asset to the environment, to our space. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we step into our service, step into our purpose, step into our leadership? We have to start on a journey of trying to become better. So sometimes you call it self-help or personal development, where you want to be the best version of yourself. This is why I say that. When you meet people, and it's funny how God works. God will bring people into your life at a certain season for a certain reason. This is my belief. The better you are, the better version of yourself you are when you meet these beautiful strangers at these crossroads, the value exchange becomes greater. You impact that conversation. You impact that experience. You impact that exchange because you are your best self. As a man, we want to develop into our best selves. What's our best selves financially, spiritually, character-wise? We want to develop into our best self. And watch what happens, guys. Kind of cool. Once you develop into your best self, you now can serve better. So again, number one in terms of servant leadership is learning the definition of service is to give of yourself, your time, your talent, your presence. But then how do you do that? You start on a journey to become your best self. And again, that could be financially, spiritually, health-wise, whatever it needs, reading, going back to school, whatever you need to be doing, okay? So number one was talking about the definition of service. Number two, how do you do that? You start your journey of becoming the best version of yourself. Lastly, and I'll dig a little bit deeper, I want to wrap up, keep it short. Some of us on this call as men, we undervalue our true self-worth. We undervalue our true testimony, the power of what our life has taken us through. And this is why I say that is because if you don't believe you have a God-given talent of some gift, you make it like it's entertainment, like can you tap, dance, or sing. You know what? Your talent may be your testimony. Your talent may be your testimony. That's your talent. And that's what we need you in the field of mentoring. We need you in the field of impact. Just tell your testimony. I'm from a city, to be very honest with you, right around when I was 18, 19, it was a Bloods and Crips mixtape, and it had a song on there called Death by 21. Death by 21, talking about we were going extinct as black men. So every day after that time, man, I celebrate life. Number one, what is service? Giving of yourself. Number two, get on a journey to become better than you are today. And lastly, if you don't think you have a talent, I don't believe that. We'll talk about that later. What I do believe in, your testimony is your talent. And that's me, man. That's Brian Heat for you, man.
Yes, sir, Heat. I am going to jump in, just really dive in on the third leg of that. And again, addressing the space of how to be a leader when you feel like the country lacks leadership. And let me just say this to every single brother on this call. I'm going to tell you it's very difficult to be something you don't see. If you don't have men around you.
You're coming in like this, okay? And he's going to be very hard to find. He's got to be very perfect to get this.
H, you got that? H?
Yeah, I'm looking to mute that out.
All right. Okay, thank you. So I literally, I'm saying that it is very difficult to be something you don't see. If you don't have great spaces of manhood around you, it's really difficult for you to walk out your own manhood at the highest degree. I am a married man. And in order for me to be the best man that I can be, I got to be around men that share my struggle. Being married as a husband of 15 years with my wife for 19 years, that is a skill set. I got to have some brothers around me that can speak to me and speak life into my existence when I struggle in that area. I got to have brothers around me that speak to my existence when I struggle in the area of fatherhood, right? So I don't want to have a bunch of friends. That's not to say that I don't have any friends that are single, but I'll tell you this. It's going to make my walk extremely difficult when I'm the only man in my circle that is married and has children. If all of them are single, then I'm going to be challenged to stay in a space that I'm supposed to be in as a married man because they want to do single men things. So having accountability in this area is vitally important. And lastly, in terms of leadership, I want to speak to these very two things that I think are so important for all of us. Passion and purpose. What you see me do on television speaks to my passion. As an actor, I'm very passionate about that portion of my life, but it is not the purpose of my life. Most people think that they're one and the same. Now, I am passionate about my purpose, but this particular passion, my acting, is not my purpose. That particular passion lends weight to my platform in order to suit my purpose. My purpose, and every single brother who can hear this call, every single brother that you see on the street has a purpose for their life. And that purpose is tied to how you serve people. That's how God constructed us. The majority of the time that we get around males that don't understand their purpose, when they're acting out and they're angry, they're upset, they're nasty, they're all of those things, that speaks to you not understanding what your purpose is. So now let me just define that, and then we're going to move on to our question and answers. Passion, and I had to explain this to my 7-year-old son last year, and he got it. Passion is what we want to do. Purpose is what God wants us to do. So what I want you to do is, if you don't know what your purpose is, you got to really sit to say, how does God want me to serve in my highest capacity? I will begin to then realize my purpose. So that's the portion of us speaking to how to be a leader when you feel like the country lacks a leadership. And now we want to dive into our Q&A. Hassani, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, we have a question from Jordan Holmes from Chicago. What do you view as the best means to place pressure on elected officials? Can we collectively construct action items for all of the individuals on the call to perform? Let me quickly say, and then guys, you can weigh in. I think there's 3 things we can definitely do. Number one, wherever you are around the country, join a local protest. We know the power of protest. When people come together with a united voice, it really, that vibration reverberates in the airwaves, on television, radio, and people begin to talk about it. So figure out what local organizational movement you could be a part of. Number 2, if you have a public disposition, if you're a person who is known, Thomas Kaepernick to me was the perfect example of that. He participated in public solidarity for our movement by making sure that he did his part, which really caused the media to constantly keep this messaging on the airwaves. And then the third thing is, in terms of Congress, I think we need to write politicians. We need to sign petitions. We need to do call marathons where we call our local elected officials, those that are the lawmakers, even getting a list of whoever these federal judges are and organizing around that. So I'm going to be putting those lists together. I hope that every individual on this call could participate in our efforts as we release them on our website and on our social media pages.
Love it. Why don't you get to another question, H? I think you answered that succinctly enough.
Okay. The next question we have is, what's the best way to translate these times to young people? How do we be able to unpackage or repackage what's going on in a way that young people can understand it, become activated, and get involved?
Hey, Pete, since you speak and you teach to young people, would you like to take that? Pete, did you get that? Might be on mute.
Okay.
Let me take that. I really do feel like the best way to be able to do all of those things is for your children and those that are, whether they're yours or those that you mentor or teach. We have to become the model that we want our kids to mirror. So I really do think that the best learning, is that's done through people actually watching you do what it is that you're supposed to do. So we really do have to be mindful about the things that we do in the company of others. And I'll give you an example. If you smoke cigarettes and you say, don't smoke cigarettes, the only thing that's going to happen in that space is that child is going to say, hey, that cigarette smoking looks pretty cool because this person that I look to for my leadership does that. So despite him saying, don't smoke cigarettes, he will absolutely say in his mind, this looks cool enough for me to do. So what we have to begin to do is we have to begin to be the model that we want mirrored. That, for me, is the most powerful teaching tool of all. H, you want to get to the next one?
We have, to keep in integrity with the time, I want to go to this last question. How can I, as a white man, support my black and brown brothers and be a force in the struggle? Powerful, powerful question. Do you want to touch on that, Patrick?
I don't know if he's still got interference or not, but I will speak to that. I think that one of the most powerful ways that, and I love the fact that we have brothers from all walks of life, all colors, all religious backgrounds on this call. It's really important for us to know that as black and brown men in this country, it's easy for us to think that everyone who looks dissimilar to us, those that don't share our or pigment, can be the enemy, and that's absolutely not the case. It will be painted that way. It sometimes will be represented that way, but that is absolutely not the case. And what we need to do is, one, as brothers, when we go about our day, when you connect with another brother who happens to be dressed in a skin that is Caucasian or lacks pigment, you need to be mindful that this is an advocate of yours, and you need to leave that space in good condition. You need to let him know that you are his brother, so that he can let you know, yo, I'm your brother too. I think it's important for us to have conversation with those that don't look like us or that don't share our experiences, our immediate experiences, because that's the way we educate each other. And the more we educate each other in the way that we grew up and the way that we actually live, that's how we begin to make more powerful advocates for each other. So I think to more succinctly answer his question is, look, have more dialogue with black and brown brothers and say, hey, look, how can I represent you? What is something that I don't understand about you or your experience? And the next time that you're getting ready to go protest, the next time that you're getting ready to go have your voice be heard, I want to go with you because my voice is your voice.
Awesome. Heat is back on the line. If you could give us a 1-minute response to that as we wind the call down. Brian Heat.
Repeat the question one more time. I want to make sure I gave you that strong close. No, I want to give the clarity of the question.
How can I, as a white male, support my black and brown brothers and be a force in the struggle? Be a force in the struggle.
You know what? I have to piggyback off my comrade, Dondre. It's really trying to be more empathetic in terms of getting to know people. I think sometimes we have so many preconceived notions, so many traditional views we learned in our home that we've almost our mind is now concrete. And we're not as empathetic in terms of putting ourselves in the same position or shoes as our fellow man, despite their race, creed, or background. So, going off of Don's, right, get to know our issues, care. Because understand this, I posted earlier today about that situation with the ban and the JFK airport, is that injustice for some is injustice for all. At the end of the day, man, we're all human. We're trying to develop as men. We're trying to develop as women. With this being said, just get to know other cultures, become more empathetic.
Love it. In the interest of us, I can't believe that I'm almost certain that we're already at the 30-minute mark. Is that right, Hassani?
Yes, sir. We passed it.
Oh, my gosh. This is why these calls every single week are so important, because look how quickly 30 minutes just came and went. We need to have these kinds of accountability calls every single week. Really, I'd love to have them every single day, but I know that that's not possible. The bare minimum, we got to be able to do this every week. So our commitment as the Manhood Tour, we are going to commit to doing these Manhood Momentum calls every single week, 30 minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time. All you need to do is have some poignant messages to be touched on so that you get edified and that you get strengthened in this space. When we don't have these kinds of calls, it's very easy for us to act out of a space of anger, frustration, sadness, all of those things. That's why you constantly need the support of your brothers. So every single week we are going to be doing this. Please, I encourage every single one of you, tell every single male and man that you know about this call. Drag them out with you next week, because this is vital. It has to grow, because we have to start a movement. We see that our country is lacking manhood on a number of different issues in a number of different areas. We got to be the ones to do it. Hassani, would you like to speak to that?
Absolutely. The time is now. The leader that you're looking for is already within you. And guess what? There are two things that we as men struggle with: fear and insecurity. And fear and insecurity keeps us stagnant and keeps us from moving forward. But I'm reminded of a book that I once read that is so powerful, that has helped me in my own journey in leadership. And the name of the book is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Right. Those people who are successful in life struggle with fear and insecurity. Those who are unsuccessful in life struggle with fear and insecurity. So what's the difference? Those who are successful felt the fear and decided to do it anyway. And it's time. In these times, things are all over the place. We're just confused about what tomorrow may bring. But feel the fear, do it anyway, get involved with the Manhood movement. We're calling on you. We want each and every one of you to go to your social media platforms and guess what? Talk about what you heard on this call, promote this call. We want this call to grow exponentially, so much so that we got to bust through this line and get other types of services to bring on the thousands of people who are going to influx our inbox because they want to be a part of this movement. So it's not just a virtual experience. We're taking this thing to the streets. We're taking this thing to the courthouse. We're taking this to the church. We're taking this to every aspect of this particular country where change has to be manifested.
There it is, Heat. Why don't you give us the website and the mission, sir?
Awesome, guys. Just to make sure, again, everybody, man, I wish I could just do a hip-hop roll call to every single city that we said was on the call tonight. I'm excited. I can feel your energy here in D.C., but understanding that the movement that we're starting, man, the birth of this is the Manhood Tour. If you want to get more information about who we are as a three-man team, go to themanhoodtour.com. All of our information, our mission statement, what we're attempting to do, what we are doing in the community and across the country and in your neck of the woods, how we can ignite you as an ambassador and get you on board in terms of reigniting manhood and really becoming greater for our families, our communities, and our country. And, again, that's the manhoodtour.com. Please get at us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You know, we'll all have our own accounts. We have collective accounts as well for the Manhood Tour. Man, I'm excited about next week. Back to you, Dondre.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you, brothers, for reaching out all across this country. We can't wait to get back at this again next week. Again, as my brothers already said so masterfully, get this out to your other brothers. And also know that we are going to have a call for our sisters at some point also, because they need to hear our collective voices as men as well. But for right now, we need to make sure that we as men are living manhood at the highest degree. And with that said, we will speak to you all next week. God bless you all.